open the meeting. And first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I don't have an agenda.
I don't have one.
It's just.
Pretty much discussion.
That's it. That's it.
So
It is.
I have one motion for the agenda. I make a motion, we place approval of the October 19th minutes until December meeting.
Okay.
Okay, and that would be because,
Well, they're taking a look at them. There's an awful lot of study and work I want to do to work on, at least I want to do to work on them before we really do them. And so it's gonna, we just take too long.
Well, we weren't gonna approve them until December anyway, so.
That's right.
I'm fine with that.
Right.
If there's some changes that you guys want to, forward to us ahead of time, feel free to do that.
If it would give us an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that way, instead of having to maybe wait to get them done until January, if there's some things that we see that are just some tweaks or whatever, feel free to get that to us and then we can maybe try to incorporate those so that you guys can move on them.
Well, I think Harvey was saying to take the minutes from October and put them in the December minutes for approval.
Right. And that's what you were speaking to.
Sure.
Also.
Okay, well, you said January, so that's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So December,
January before we really.
Right.
I see, okay.
I couldn't see them. The link doesn't work.
Yeah.
You guys updated the website.
I just noted, I tried to do that before the meeting.
Yeah.
If you want, I did bring hard copies. If anyone wants some, I can give them, but I noticed the same.
It was like, oh.
And we just migrated on over and when we sent with everyone.
I've got a copy.
Anybody else?
I was able to print it out probably
Did you do
before.
it yesterday?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, so they changed it today, I think.
You got them?
yeah, I got it.
Oh,
I'm doing it again.
We need formal motion to.
So that's what took place was the city just migrated to that and that link was sent out before.
yeah, I kind of figured,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, what's going on? Oh, it's all new. It's all new. So,
You did change the website, right?
Yes, yep. So I guess with that, if you want to just hold them for now and just, we can act on them in December, we can do that.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I would second if that is a motion that,
Very good if it was a motion.
somebody second?
I did.
Okay.
Harvey made the motion, I'll second. the motion.
Okay.
Those in favor?
Yay.
Okay,
Okay.
whether we need it or not, motion is made and approved.
Yeah.
I guess the only other two items talk about is the discussion items that we sent in and the date for the December meeting.
You had given us kind of a list and I'm sure you all have your list, but just in case. you
Ooh,
didn't
yay,
hear it,
paper.
just- Yeah.
I forgot everything.
In fact, you can,
We talk about the December date before we forget about it.
Oh,
I have a,
Oh,
I've heard the same thing, but I'm not.
Handouts.
No.
it's,
I wish I would have brought a project.
Okay,
thank you.
so the December 14th or 14th date is not available.
Yeah, so thank you. Here we go.
Nothing on the calendar.
Yeah, so on ours, there is the Friends of HRAP who have the meeting on December 14th. So it wasn't on like, say, the meetings agenda, like for council and public works, DRB, but they have reserved the council chambers for that evening. So right now, the meeting dates that are available, Dave indicated he's going to be out of town on the 21st. That was going to be our original meeting date. The dates that are available now are Monday, December 11th, Monday, December 18th, and Wednesday, December 20th.
I could do the 11th or the 18th. Anyone?
I don't care.
Those both work for me.
Are there reasons to do it on the 18th rather than the 11th to wait, or do we want to just, I mean, you said, I think that there's going to be some applications to review, so that
Yeah,
go ahead, the
There's-
sooner the better type
sure.
of thing.
However you want to do it, but we got a couple of signs right now, I believe.
that's all.
Yeah, so far.
Public notice,
We can still meet it for the 11th, but I think we have to get that out. Like,
11.
can't remember if that's tomorrow or early next week.
I don't have the calculator on here that I do on the other computer.
Let's see. I thought we still had some time for the 11th, because otherwise I wouldn't have put it on there.
okay,
But I know it's like ASAP that we have to get it out.
well, would the 18th make it?
Put on the 11th, so whatever you guys decide, 11th, 18th or 20th, whichever one you think is,
So for the 11th, we would have to have notice out no later than the 21st.
which is next.
Okay, so that's
Monday?
Tuesday,
Tuesday, so we can get, yeah, that gives us enough time.
okay,
Let's do it on the 11th,
okay.
Right.
We're good,
okay?
the 11th?
Thanks.
And that's Monday at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay,
And that gives us enough time to look through the minutes.
Perfect, yeah.
okay, so discussion items.
I turned our discussion items into motions. So we can, if it's okay with you guys, I'll make them and then we can discuss them. And so the full-size drawings, I make the motion that we formalize the requirement that all hard copies of drawings be available in full size to all members of the board.
And the reason being,
we've all struggled to read the drawings. As, you know, especially when you get them, when they come in 8.5 by 11.
right?
And I'm not, nothing else but the drawings. And so it's so much easier to review drawings in full size.
I understand that, but it costs about $1 a sheet, for us, and it's a lot of staff time. I don't have any problem with 11 by 17s, but we got 3 people and I'm gonna have my staff printing at the plotter, for how many pages at a time does that take for? I mean, that's like
Typical
a couple of hours.
application.
So you couldn't have the applicant provide.
We could possibly get some additional hard size copy, but typically today what we're trying to do is absolutely get away from paper. So we don't have all the storage and get it electronically. That's the way, and that's why we get it to you electronically in the files. Cause the last thing we want is more paper, because we don't have any filing places. We don't have, it's a lot of time and effort. And you guys are going to get them and you're going to throw them away.
You don't need to keep the paper.
I like the idea of the applicant having to provide full-size copies of the diagrams. I mean, and I don't know if that's in the code already, that they provide that. I mean, I'd have to look back, but it seems
Yeah.
like there's something that addresses that,
Sure.
the onus on the applicant to provide that,
Okay.
saves.
At least it wouldn't be on us.
Right. So,
And I mean,
that is a way, I mean, because I agree. I mean, it's really hard when it's so small. And I get hard copies and that's great, but it's still so hard to see that and then look, the surf sand to me was great. I mean, that from our last month's meeting.
Yeah. Those were 11 by 17.
Yeah, that was a great size to be able to see diagram and
And that's a heck of a lot easier for us to, get done.
Yeah.
compared to a plotter, but anyways, yeah.
Not to put more work on the staff, I mean.
Sure.
Enough, but
No, I'm not trying to make that, but it's just, the plotter is time consuming where the printer is just like, I can kick those out quick.
yeah,
Well, you know, I believe we're worth a buck a copy.
I think it's a buck a page.
It's a lot more than that.
Yeah,
It's way more than a buck a copy. I mean, I got the ink, I got the plotter, I got the time of our staff,
yeah.
I got a lot of stuff. So, yeah, it might be funny, but it's not funny to us because it takes a lot of our time.
The,
I prefer to not be wasteful, so
yes,
I like
Yeah,
using,
but-
I know not everybody has that.
if 11 by 17 is adequate for everybody, then I would revise my motion to say instead of full size, I would say 11 by 17.
Thank you.
okay,
Not reducing them to 8.5 by 11.
Exactly, 8.5 by 11,
I get that.
but 11 by 17 is handy, you can fold it over to 8.5 by 11 and it's
No
great.
problem. I appreciate that.
Let's get rid of that full size.
what do you think about the applicant having to provide that?
And we can certainly keep doing that yes.
Okay,
Good idea. Thanks.
I don't need it.
That's not something that's hard for us to produce because it's one toggle on the printer.
yeah,
Just above that, we go to the plotter.
I think it's just for old eyes and,
I get it. I mean, when we're looking at it, we get the same thing. So I understand, but the 7 by 17 works great for us.
yeah,
So thank you.
Yep, and then
Okay.
those of us that have big screens, it works out, that works out too.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so I revise my motion for 11 by 17.
all right. Is this something that we,
Is this a motion thing
Is
or are we
this-
just having a conversation?
This is a motion,
We're just having conversation.
this is a motion, I made the motion.
Oh,
okay, I'll second the motion. I mean, I'm not quite sure if all of these need to go to council, is that kind of what?
I don't know what we're doing, to be perfectly honest.
I don't, I'm a little confused.
My understanding was we were having a discussion about things the board was going to have. There are going to be some things that we're going to be able to address, and there are going to be some things we are not going to be able to address. So you can do what you think is necessary, but I don't know whether a motion will make a difference as to whether or not we're able to provide all the information you're going to be requesting this evening.
Okay,
I've made it as a motion. So, do we have a second?
I can second if that's needed. It needs to be a motion, and that's where I thought, some of the things were needing a motion, so that's where I think we're looking for some guidance on what we need a motion for, or what we can just request.
Yeah, as we go through here, some of these may be simple requests.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, this feels like just a request.
this one sounds like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like
so-
it, yeah, but,
I think.
Grace
has his hand up.
If I can just stress one thing.
Yeah.
In this particular case, I would prefer it not be a motion because all of a sudden that becomes, it'd be a request, you'll get it. But if it's a motion, at some point, if somebody wants a different size, and we have to go through the thing and to do another one, that sort of thing. But we have no problem providing you with the 8.5 by 11.
11 by 17,
11 by 17s, yeah,
11 by 17.
11 by 17, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that works for me.
No, that's good, yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons I'm starting with a simple one. This one, the next motion just might be more difficult. As regarding the findings of fact. And you can come back and tell us. I make the motion that a phone or Zoom meeting be properly announced and held as soon as necessary to approve the findings of fact around each meeting's board decisions. And then request the city council to change code if necessary. Where we have findings of fact, I think we all should be involved in that and reviewing it.
What are those
So,
findings of fact?
what staff prepares for us and presents to us regarding our findings. And then I think they asked you to approve it, our chair to approve it.
I'm confused.
May I comment on that?
Chair.
I think that's something that you had mentioned once before, Dave, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Harvey, was the idea that instead of it being drafted by staff and sometimes just simply being adopted by the chair, that you would prefer that if we were to draft those, or you were to draft those like what took place last time, that they be completed and be brought back to the board, to the full board, to be approved.
Right. So is that something you can do just by request from us?
Yes. I don't think there's the need for the motion, but if you guys want the findings of fact brought back to you, we can do that. And so one of the things that we would prefer to do if we do that is if we can do things by Zoom or something, because there are certain timeframes that findings of fact have to be completed by, which I believe is typically like 7 days. I can't remember. I don't know exactly, but there's a certain, 5 or 7 days that the notice, that the findings have to be completed after the decision. So that would require additional meetings potentially that we've done by Zoom that could simply be brought before you and adopted something to that, in that fashion.
Yeah, obviously, time is of the essence,
Right.
but it seems like we really should all be involved, because some of them that we've received, we'd like to at least have tweaked some of them. So,
That sounds good.
okay, so you guys can do that
That's correct.
without any code change or anything.
Oh, and
One thing that I would like to check, I want to make sure that if we do something like within a week, that it's not something that has to be a 20-day noticed meeting.
Right.
So I want to make sure on that, but otherwise, even if it goes to the next meeting, but there's some things that you folks do that require a 20-day notice, and I don't know if that's one.
Yeah, that's why I'm suggesting either
Because the planning commission does it.
Yeah, I wouldn't,
either
that's,
a legal phone or Zoom meeting, something very quick. So we can, as many as can participate can, and make sure it comes out right.
yeah, and I think from that perspective, we're gonna want to move anyways because of the 120-day clock. So if someone, say, for example, wants to appeal, not saying right, wrong, and different, that's all part of that. So we're gonna want to get moving on those quickly anyways, and not have them, the next meeting or something like that, because the clock is ticking.
And we're required to release findings within that.
5 to 7 days.
so how would that work if you're presenting the final findings and then I say, well, what about adding this? I mean, would that just be taken care of during that meeting if everyone agreed, or does it have to go through some process?
Yeah, what I would suggest on that is that we try to, get it to what you want. And then oftentimes what we could do is we could take those comments, make those changes, and then, sometimes if we got the substance and it's some minor tweaks like that, we're hoping that you guys would then let the chairperson potentially sign that if we say, hey, is this what you mean?
Okay,
And we get it down, because we'd like to be able to, because like Robert just said, we have that 5 to 7 days that we have to get moving on.
right, and we don't want to clog it up.
Right. So at that meeting, it would probably be good if you see something, maybe to have a little chicken scratch or something as to what you might want, so that we can take that down and make sure it gets incorporated in there.
Or if an email, maybe the day before, and then like, do you have anything? And then we come together and
Sure.
sign off on it type of, that
We
seems
need to see those,
work for you guys, so.
I'll need to see those before they're finalized.
You
Right.
send me normally an email with that information, which I review and either sign off with DocuSign or reply back to you that I think something needs to change.
Correct.
Is there a reason why that can't go to all of us
Yes,
as an email?
yes.
Yeah, I don't,
That's that's a non-published meeting.
That's why we need to make certain that we meet the Oregon open meeting law.
Right. But so by having a meeting, even if it's by Zoom, I think by phone might be more of a problem, but by Zoom would be fine. And then if y'all get on there and say, this is what we want, somebody makes a motion and second it, and it goes down. That's the best way. It's the strongest way.
Yes, and could you announce the meeting? Would you also announce the meeting appropriately ahead of time? That there will be a Zoom meeting at such and such a time?
Possibly, yeah. That way we cover all of it.
Yeah, stay within the meeting law.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Emailed it out to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm shooting for, yeah. So
I think what we try to do is, you know, we do it somewhat with the plan commission. And so we would notice it, you know, for about the meeting. But what we would do is we could probably send it out to everyone. But again, you know how we've kind of mentioned, don't reply all, just sending them back to us, because otherwise we run into that public meeting situation where that can be an issue. So I think, Robert, that's kind of how we handle plan commission, correct?
yeah, you could even send them out individually. So
We can do some, we can make that work for you to try to get that done.
We can send them out as soon as they're done. Y'all get them, and then y'all take action at the same time with the meeting. And again, I'm always glad that Jan is here because she knows more about all these things than I do. With a little bit more seniority on me, but that's something that we can, you know, publish that in 5 days or however many days there will be a meeting to
right.
Okay,
review the findings.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds good. If you guys can do that, that would be really great.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you send them out using BCC instead of two, then nobody can use reply all, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah, yes.
That might
Yeah,
work.
yeah, reply all doesn't work with BCC. That would be you guys have other ways to do it, but that's,
Yeah, but we would, yeah, and I don't know if I want to get into BCC when we're sending stuff out to boards. I think it would work technically, but especially on findings, I think that we need to say that the findings went to the board on these, you know, these people on this day. So
Okay, and we,
I think that,
Especially for our records, if we get challenged and we got Lubin, we got to go back and we have to go back to records. We're going to want, you know, instead of having to look at 27 individual emails, one that incorporates that we sent it to
we just all solemnly swear that we will not reply to all. Michelle,
whatever you guys can do to.
I swear to nothing.
I know.
Yes.
Bye.
Yeah.
I say reply all, that way we know about it.
yeah,
I know these things complicate your lives.
No,
Not necessarily. I mean, we'll do it.
Well,
Hoping to simplify everything.
well, then to not make a motion at this moment, but to sort of along the same lines, when we do conditional approvals, they typically then whatever the applicant comes back with as his proposal for how to work around our condition, then right now our chairman has to do it, has to be the approver, and I'm just saying we all should be involved. We shouldn't lay that on our chairman. And we probably all have little things that we were thinking during the meeting that we don't want to get missed. So,
we can follow a similar process as findings of fact.
pardon?
If we can follow a similar process to what we just discussed in the findings of fact.
Oh, so you can do that too.
I'm not following what's being asked for.
On a conditional approval.
Yeah.
Then when the applicant comes back and conforms to our conditions, my understanding is that goes to our chairman normally. And for say, okay, yes or no, well, I'm just saying, really, we should all take some of the load and I do it the same way as as this one we just talked.
Yeah, I don't think that happens right now. The only way that happens is if there's a minor or major modification to an approval. And that's done by the ordinance. If there's there's certain specifications that talk about if someone makes a change to a plan, there are major and minor modifications. Minor ones, the chairperson can sign off on. Major ones have to come back. Like if you're changing the footprint or you're changing the whole material of something where you're making a major modification to a plan that was previously approved, that has to come back. If there's like, say, a door color or some minor modification to a trim or something, that's something that staff can take to the chairperson.
Stephen,
That's what I'm saying.
typically what they're talking about is conditional approvals, not
Okay.
that sort of thing, but if there's a conditional approval, if somebody brings back, this is what it's going to be.
Okay.
and that everybody sees it instead of just the chairs. I believe that's a request.
Yes. Okay.
So to me, it's very similar to what we're talking about findings of fact.
Okay.
I'm not aware of anything that would make that different.
Can I ask a question? I mean, feel like we're just going along. So I just want to, is it okay if I use an example of something that happened? So the hip nest sign, it was about a year and a half ago. We didn't approve it based on the materials. And then, and then the next day, not the next day, maybe 2 days later, it ended up being approved because they changed the material back to wood because we didn't want any plastic or.
As I have explained to this board about 2 or 3 times regarding this application and approval, you were not reviewing their sign.
Oh, can I just finish what I'm asking?
Reviewing their materials.
Can I finish what I'm asking? Look, I know that. I'm completely aware of that. But we also had, we can say about a color. And to me, those colors were day glow and that's in the code. And we didn't get a chance to say, hey, these colors are not, because I mean, I looked it up. It goes with day glow. So we didn't get a chance because we denied on material, but then it was like, oh, they changed the material. It's like, well, also the color, but we denied on one thing. But is this what, like afterwards, this is something we could do or? I know, I understand material. I get that.
Yeah.
Is that it got approved? Yes, and then he ended up using wood.
As far as the color, that was an interpretation of colors. Are they using colorful colors?
Yes.
Yes, but I believe that they are primary and secondary colors.
Okay, well, I got color swatches and they did match with day glow, but that doesn't matter.
I don't look at the colors and I'm not seeing highlight or neon pink.
Okay,
I'm seeing orange, I'm seeing red.
okay,
That's how I saw their
okay,
application.
it's fine. But
So-
I'm just saying, for example, that's fine that we see different colors, but for example, if that happened, then the next, would it come back to us and we are like, oh, wait. Or do we have to say not approved on material and the fact that it was day glow color, whether we agree with it being day glow?
Well, again, they can modify their application to be compliant with the language of the code at an administrative level. And at that point, there is nothing that forces them to have to come back. The only way that you would be able to get anything like that is to completely remove administrative review of signage.
Okay,
So you're saying if it had fully complied, it would never come to the design review board in the first place.
yes,
Correct. If
Yeah.
you're denied on a
Okay,
hot pink sign and you change your application to be red, then no, that's not going to go back in front of the design review board.
and if they had come up with red in the first place, I would not have gone to the design review board?
They wanted to use plastic. That was why it went to the design review board.
Okay,
They wanted to use plastic lettering.
You're right, though, Harvey. I'm sorry to interrupt. But you're right. If it was meeting the right colors and the right materials and things like that,
it never
that's
would,
something that staff can sign off on. The reason why was the colors and the.
I was
and
just
the
asking if-
materials. So there was some discussion.
Yeah.
So those are, some of the things, that could, on a different instant, if it's on a building, and there's certain conditions and they're going away from those conditions, we may have to bring that back to the board if that's, basically where you're going from in your comment here.
I was just using an example. I wasn't trying to argue one thing.
But it sounds like with conditional approval,
To the table.
You've earned a spot at the table.
with the conditional approval.
Another example, which was not minor, it happened a few years ago. It was the new little pot shop up on Hemlock Street where there was a beautiful old shore pine. And that was, as you were still here, I don't know, Anita, but anyway, Dave, I think you were on the board at the time. And that was considered, we worked so hard to save that tree, and a number of the other trees were going to be taken down, but we knew that that one was going to be saved. And the next thing we knew, it was chopped down. And what we were told was that the chair at the time, which was not you, Dave, had been asked, it was interpreted as a minor modification after this board had made their decision. After all that, because it was saved, it was considered a minor modification to chop down a shore pine. And it created a big stink in our community. I would like to ask, if we're talking about, if we could please have a clarification. I don't know in writing or how it would be, but to really understand better.
It's in the zoning ordinance.
Okay, so just go to the zoning and
Right.
try to get clear on that, because a tree of that size should not have been a minor
Thank you.
modification. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Thanks, Jen.
But it sounds like on conditional approval, you can fix that real easily too.
I think so.
I think we can work with the board on that.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the biggest issues from my standpoint is how we can get in earlier on reviewing large projects like the school renovation or the upcoming city hall and police station design. I watched the city council meeting where they reviewed the preliminary or schematic designs that were presented for the police station and city hall. And like, couldn't help but wonder why the design review board isn't involved in that process.
The design review board, I believe, gets involved when either the city or somebody else is the owner. Is this is the project I want to do. And that's when the design review board is involved.
Well, so that's how we get surprised at the end.
Mhm.
Like on the school renovation, where we see this set of drawings that's been worked on apparently for months, if not years.
Mhm.
But we've had no opportunity to input to that design as a board.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, we could have input as an individual at some of the meetings.
Right.
And I have to admit that I did not.
Well, I was concerned about if you speak up as a citizen, that it might somehow preclude you from being able to be a board member and speaking, because that could be interpreted as personal bias if you've said something at a public meeting. And so I've watched the meetings, but I felt that I wasn't able to say anything for that reason. And that's where it's unclear. So
Yeah, it's an interesting one because that exactly is the case, especially, maybe not always say with city projects, but for other projects that could show a bias and things like that. The best thing that we could do on these is simply to indicate that whether these things are coming up at these meetings, to watch them and to provide, because we walk that fine balance of a board compared to a citizen. There's things that you can do as a citizen, but can an applicant say, hey, you've already spoken to this, you're on the board, we're asking you to be removed. Yeah, they can do that. So it's just it's a I don't know that there's a great answer to it, other than to simply say that we could maybe advise you of when those meetings are gonna be public and on Zoom and things like that. I don't know that I have a great answer for that, other than to simply notify you of when those public meetings are happening, and maybe, like you just said, to watch them, on Zoom or to something like that. I don't have a great answer to that one.
Board is asking for is to be involved, maybe to have an invitation from the council, because in watching the same meeting, and I was kind of taken aback at, a comment that was made by a counselor that, well, I don't like that color of trim. And I just felt like, I don't even know that we as a board could say that, so that's where involving the committees that are going to be part of the ultimate decision making, if you bring us all to the table, we can probably help some of the decisions and appeal process, and to make it a smoother, positive
Sure.
And what?
application and process. So I think that's what we're trying to, and I don't really know why that doesn't happen, if it can't happen. I think that's what we're trying to say is that, we'd love to be able to, to throw some questions or some ideas out there for discussion, so that we can reach a consensus and move these projects forward without, oh, well, now it's got to go here and we've got to look at the criteria and we haven't really been involved. And so now we're,
Yeah, I like what you're saying with the positive process, because it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like that
Right.
currently.
What would be wrong?
we're not, the DRB is not looking to just deny everything. I mean, we're looking at our criteria. And, and that's what I think could be spoken to, is that in following the criteria, which is somewhat subjective, and we all have our own ideas. And if we keep running into the fact that we weren't following the criteria, then maybe we need to change the criteria to make it more understandable.
What
So
would
that
be
it
wrong
is-
with having the design review board and the city council review a project at the same time?
That's a discussion that you guys could have with your alderpersons. I don't know, Bruce, if you have anything else other than that. I don't got the
It's an
I
al-
don't have the answer on this one.
Asking the question.
Right. And I can,
Well, what's an alder person?
I'm sorry, city councilor.
Is that what they were called in?
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sorry. Yes.
So your roots are showing there.
Yes, right. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to discourage, or I'm not. It's a valid point, and I don't know if anyone else has any input on this, but yeah, it's I don't know if it's an ability to talk to the counselor or and maybe discuss it that way.
Okay.
But
As,
don't have a great answer.
for the board here, I'd like to formalize a request to the city council, entire city council. I mean, I've talked.
To be invited to,
I would like to make the motion that we formalize a request to the city council to include us in their meetings, and they can say yes or no.
We are going to city council meetings now? Is that what?
No.
We have joint meetings with the city.
Oh,
council.
okay.
So we would have a joint meeting with.
The meeting that I'm talking about, which was a week ago Monday, I think,
oh, was it on
was
Tuesday? Was it
listed
7th?
as
Yeah.
a special meeting strictly to review the schematic design that CETA presented. And if it's a special meeting anyway, I don't see why it couldn't be a joint meeting with them and us.
That's what we're asking for, and I've talked to city councilman about it, and it seems to me the best way that as a group we can do it is to just say, we would like, officially say.
Invitation to the table.
We want to be invited, yeah, we're interested in, they can decide yes or no. And I mean, it's a lot better than having an overrule something that we deny. It's what I'm looking.
Good, Dave?
Okay.
What I'm looking for, Michelle,
Good, need some water?
Do we have some water?
Getting some,
That's stupid.
Yeah, you're good. I just wanna make sure.
Dan's gonna go tap a tree.
Yeah.
No, she wouldn't touch that, sorry.
I'm looking for a way that we can work directly with them so we don't.
I get what you're saying. I was
Then
like,
then they don't get a denial from us.
Yeah, we're
That,
talking about projects that we know are gonna come before DRB.
yeah, we have projects coming up right now and the sooner we can get involved, the better. And then if we have little suggestions, probably council could adapt to them.
You good?
You know, that could extend to planning too, you know, that if planning, I
Same way.
mean, I guess that's where I feel like everybody at the table. Better way to census for some of these projects, you know, instead of, well, that board is.
Yeah.
Voting that way and this, you can't really,
well, I like what you're saying with the involvement, because I mean, as I like, I don't know about things all the time. And if somebody's telling me I should know about this, then I should look into it, as opposed to getting, you know, a 200-page document 6 days beforehand
right?
and going, oh crap. Let's figure that out. You know, I get what you're saying. I think that makes sense. It's interesting. Do we send them a card trying to invite us?
So Bruce, what's the best way to make sure this happens?
I think it would be a joint meeting between the DRB and the council
Okay.
and to talk about that. But one thing I'm not sure how much time you would pick up in doing that unless you were at every one of the, say, 7 or 8 meetings. Because it's an iterative process. And so if you see it at meeting 4, at meeting 8 is going to be different. So do you plan on being at meeting 8, at which time they approve it and then it would come to you anyway? Or if you do it for all of them and then, you know, sit with the board or sit with the council for, you know, through the whole process.
Right.
That's how I envision it, is that we would just be part of the process
All
from the
the way.
beginning and
How many
That
times
way.
does the council approve the design before it would normally come to us?
Right. Right. That's the way that it's set up now.
Normally, my experience would be you have a schematic design. Then you maybe have a preliminary design at 50%,
Right.
and then you have a final design.
What was approved the other night was the schematic design.
Mhm.
What was approved the other night by council was the schematic design.
Okay, so in a few months, they will come back with a 50% design or
Mhm.
then a 90%.
Right, probably it'd be the 50% that we would bring in here, because after, and you know this, I'm sorry, but after that point, it's all details.
Yeah.
Yeah, things aren't working. They aren't working now. We need to find a way to make them work.
But I think that potentially a meeting where this could be discussed with you and the council would be the way to resolve it.
Okay.
And there's also another part that we would have to talk to the attorneys, and that this board is heavily regulated as far as the type of meetings you have and you know, those sort of things. That and Steve, help me here. What is the type of meetings that they have?
Quasi judicial.
The judicial. So if you are speaking at a quasi judicial before it comes before you, I'm sorry, if you are commenting throughout 5, 6 meetings, and then it comes to you, and then you're at a quasi judicial, you clearly have had a lot of involvement with it. You've had, you know, all the conversations that can happen, all that kind of thing. So I'd need to check with the attorneys to see if that would be possible.
Is it our code that makes our particular city code that makes it quasi judicial?
It's state law.
Okay, I talked to the state way that is in charge of design review boards, et cetera.
Mhm.
And you said that design review boards are, some cities don't have them. And many cities, they have lots of reviews, including contractors will come to them and they'll do a informal review for them.
Mhm.
And the same thing can be true for the city projects.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering if that's something we've sort of bottled ourselves in, or, you know, Cannon Beach has bottled ourselves into, because what he said was that design review boards are pretty much what the city creates.
Yeah. Let me check on that. I thought that it was state law, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and that's, well, first of all, it doesn't make sense. But especially in a design struct review situation, it makes it really hard to be a contributor.
Mhm.
I think the state sets the rules and then the city has to, whether or not they want to adopt certain rules, in addition to that. So they kind of have a standard and then the city kind of does, here is our process with the notices and things like that. So in order to meet the quasi judicial hearings and providing all the notices and things like that, that's how presently our ordinance reads, the design review board. And we have to, and these are often state requirements, minimum state requirements that we're following, that we're typically adopting, whether it's a plan commission process, the quasi judicial, the legislative process. These are all things that are kind of spelt out by the state and the city adopting, and you might be able to amend it a little bit, but you can't do anything like typically less than what the state requires.
Apparently, that's certainly true, what this fellow said for the planning commission. That's highly dictated by the state.
Yeah, the plan commissions are definitely dictated by the state. Not everyone has a quasi judicial, or I'm sorry, a board of appeals, but then they do typically try to follow similar state processes for the other boards that are oftentimes created looking at similar things, such as hearings and approvals and things like that. So it's somewhat uniform.
Yeah, as it stands, we're not doing much good. The way we're operating, and at least in my experience in projects, it's much better to be facilitated and find ways to so that the whoever the applicant is can meet city standards and simultaneously do a good job for themselves as well.
Sure. And I agree with that. And on some of these larger projects and things like that, I get that. But a lot of times we're brought applications and they're saying, okay, we want to act on it. We can encourage people to come to you and say, hey, you may want to go to them ahead of time. But if they tell us no and they submit an application, that 120 clock is started and we have to act. So sometimes when we're meeting with them ahead of time, we could say, hey, you may want to do a pre-meeting with them, and then it's totally on them to make that decision. So we can encourage that, but that's about the extent of it. You know, like on what you're talking about with, you know, some of the city stuff and trying to get involved, that's kind of a city, you know, project. Hey, maybe there's a little bit more discussion between boards and council and things like that. But with an applicant, we're a little bit more restricted once they submit that application.
Sure. Yeah.
I'd be interested in maybe having the city attorney come before the board, maybe in January after the holidays, and just kind of go through some of the things that maybe we would want to tweak for the DRB to make it more relevant, or just to kind of tighten up our
Perhaps
procedures and
schedule another organizational meeting.
I don't see why we
I
do that. Hey,
lots of questions that I don't know, and
probably do like a
We
training.
need to do
session.
research on the review
Yeah.
meetings. We need
Yeah.
to do some research, find out, get back to you, and then
okay,
maybe we resolve it by having a joint meeting.
that'd be great.
City council shouldn't have to have to reverse our decisions all the time. We
Right.
need to find some way so that doesn't happen.
Right.
And so I know we're all searching for that. We'd like to make things really run smoothly and actually be contributors.
Oh, there's been some good ideas here.
Okay. Are we done with that?
Does that cover the second or the next one too, the public projects? Is the same?
Yeah, we kind of did, we did them both at the same time.
Yeah.
So did we need a motion to go to council for invitation for a joint meeting or where's that? Where do we get?
I'm willing to make one. I'm not, are you guys gonna make it happen or do we need to make the motion?
Let us do my suggestion is that we do
Okay,
find out, are you required to be quasi judicial? Is it possible for you to do, like an iterative process, the same as the council and be participating in that and then rule later? Those kind of things to come back.
yeah. I think
And,
the goal would be so that we are approving what's being brought to us, not that we're gonna throw a wrench or a surprise during the rule.
Tandem with
Yes.
the city council.
Yes, yeah.
And I can't think of anything much more painful in a meeting than turning down that school project.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think any of us really wanted to do it.
seating arrangements.
That's pretty minor, but in my experience reviewing projects, it's so much better if everybody sits around one table, you spread the drawings out, you take a look at them, you talk about them, you can move from one thing to another. So I'm just thinking, perhaps we could turn one of these tables the other way and we could sit around a table, and then if necessary, we could come back to the stage situation we're in here and make a motion and vote. But just thinking, it's like, well, right now we're fairly close together. It work fairly well, but it's, somehow it's really I've reviewed a zillion projects, and it's really great to be all around the same table together and look at the same drawings and talk about them together, and each person contribute their needs and desires, and ideas. Probably a minor thing, but it just makes design review more fun. And more effective. It's just something to think about, ways to.
Yeah.
Might work out the seating for, especially in the case where we did do reviews for people.
I'm worried a little bit that it would make us look like we're at the kids' table.
Yeah.
As opposed to
Yeah.
because, I mean, the reason they have this is,
To make it look formal.
yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, much better to review a project as a kid.
I'm not against it.
I don't
I'm
mind
just
at all.
saying that's-
That's how DRB used to meet.
Yep.
All around one big table
Okay,
and looking at the designs, just what you're saying.
I think that was before a lot of what we've got here, and we're trying to improve the experience for the public.
Mhm.
And so it would strictly be a coordinating thing that whatever drawing you are looking at has to be the one that's up there so people can follow it. That's something, and we can do that with the mics, but
yeah, at least, well, with my old vision, it makes it hard, that none of these screens really are great for me.
yeah, you don't have the best spot. We should put another thing up there.
There you go.
Yeah, because somebody over on this side works pretty good.
Or, then you still have to crane your neck, no matter where you,
Yeah.
even anybody sitting around the table here is craning their neck. And that one is too far away.
Mhm.
Anyway, just a thought for how to make it really go smoothly.
Okay,
You can sit over there.
Yeah,
You can sit right here.
right there. No, you sit there.
I have another question. When we approve or deny, do we have to reference the code that we're approving or denying it on?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I didn't know that and I kind of try to do it every once in a while and I feel like we keep not doing that. And I wasn't sure if everybody knew that we have to
Sure.
say code 177 blah, 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 you know.
Yeah. So a lot of times I think, the one conversation we had a little bit was you seemed like you liked that checklist.
Mhm.
And so from that perspective, that kind of is the criteria that you're utilizing.
Yeah.
So I would just continue, we can put that out for you if you like that. But that's what you want to utilize when
Yeah.
you're looking at these as best as you can.
Well, because when I sent my notes to CETA, I put the code I was using
Sure.
for and I thought that's.
Yeah, and so a lot of times there are different, obviously, sections of the zoning ordinance with different things.
Yeah.
But we're really relying on that design review section with those specific criteria that we're looking at.
Okay.
So if that's useful, we'll keep
Yeah, I like
right in
it.
it.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm a graphic
I don't
person.
think you need to reference that so much for approvals, but probably for denial.
Yeah.
I had another question on, when we receive the information, would it be possible, as soon as you declare the application complete, if you could get, a copy of the application to us, before you make your comments, so we can start studying it and understanding it, give us more time with a week. We might be very busy that week, but with a week is.
Just like us. We might be busy that week. Yes. I think that's something we could try to see what we can do on something like that. Especially maybe on the bigger ones.
Yes, yeah, when you guys, you declare it complete. You don't have time to make all your comments yet.
Right.
We could at least be looking at it and then waiting for your comments.
We'll see if we can get something out a little earlier.
That would sure help me, I know
Okay.
that.
So we don't have any new applicants for the,
No, we've re-advertised. It's on the website. We put it on the Facebook site. So, made sure that it was still out there, and the answer at this point in time is no. It's not as though it's not being advertised.
I think nobody wants to do it.
I mean,
Yeah, we can't blame them.
so it's not,
And I think this is usually a reasonably popular.
so it's not as though we're not trying, that's not it.
some kind of a signing bonus or?
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Cover yourself.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I'm done.
Can't
Talk
think
about
of
tonight.
anything. Think that this. Is on everything that we're hoping to, I think ultimately just be able to work together with council and staff and do everything we can to move forward with.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the things you said you would get back to us on, how are you going to do that and when?
When is the next meeting?
We decided the next meeting is on Monday, December 11th. So whether it's December with the holidays and it's coming up pretty quick and getting to the attorneys, I don't know if we'll have it by then, but there's no reason why potentially we couldn't have it by January if it comes right down to it. I'm not trying to say we wouldn't try to get it to the 11th, but with the holidays and different people's schedules, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Doesn't have to be
January is fine with
everything.
me.
Yeah.
We'll take partial submittals.
Don't start that now. You're asking for completeness.
Try, Dave, don't waffle, okay?
Well. All attempts are welcome.
One thing, when we're talking about the, setting up in the middle, a shortcoming we have of this room and the system that we have is that the mics pick up so that it can go onto, out to the web.
Yep.
They don't amplify your voices in the room because they would conflict.
Okay.
So if we do something like it changes, you'll still be able to be picked up by the mics, but the mics won't help the people that are out here, so you'll have to project a little more.
Okay,
One thing we're trying to do is to set the room up so that people that are speaking, like suppose it's CETA or whoever, is facing more to the council and the public. And it's because of that shortcoming that the voice has got to bounce off that wall before it gets to somebody else. So those are just some shortcomings of the room that we're trying to figure out.
okay.
And like people
Great.
tend to not address us anyhow. So I mean, putting us down there makes us less to be addressed. So like, I mean,
When you guys approve the new city hall, we'll get that figured out for you.
Yeah.
I think,
So we're working
I
towards.
think I'm gonna move. Wait, are we being recorded?
For,
One of the comments I would have had on police didn't notice that they had a holding cell.
They don't
well, they
Is
did,
that
but then they
not-
scrapped it.
want a holding cell. Reason is the jail is now closer to us. And it's better than trying to bring somebody into an enclosed space like that, especially if there's just one officer by themselves. Put them in the cell, take them out, and then eventually take them to the jail anyway. Seaside doesn't take anybody to their holding cells. They just go straight to the jail.
Where is that?
Oh, wait, isn't there a new one in like Warrington? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
to somebody that went.
yeah. And you don't have to tell us how you know that.
This kid in town, I was like, oh.
Oh, did you bail?
That's, yeah,
No,
first you.
that's, we thought a lot about that and trying to reduce space. It was like, we don't want to bring that folks back here anyway.
We should have a stockade. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the evidence room and how large that looked to me. And then the evidence holding room. And so a lot of evidence apparently that.
It's all on you.
With evidence.
Interior, so we can't review that.
Also, it has to be kept for 100 years,
Oh, wow.
the evidence, if it's a capital crime.
Wow.
So we have that, and then we also, while we're storing evidence, it includes biological evidence,
Okay.
drug evidence, all those kind of things. And so it needs a special, we don't have it here. We get, right now, one of my problems with what we have with the city, I'm sorry, with the police station, is that they have a table that's about this wide and maybe about this deep. And they do their biological evidence processing, drug evidence processing, and eat their lunch.
Mm-hmm.
All at that same location, and there's somebody right here, there's somebody right there. And whatever's in the air goes into the air and it eventually comes over to this building. So we have,
Yes,
our situation is so bad.
that or the
We
asbestos.
have to take things, we have to take boxes out to be able to go in and find something because the floor is covered now too.
Yeah, there's no doubt it needs to be rebuilt, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I noticed that the office out here has been closed down, so
Yeah.
just another. Yeah,
Another thing about the processing is that for chain of custody, there's a place where the officers are taking the evidence, putting it in a box. And then they've lost custody of it, but the evidence tech is the one that takes custody. So they don't go ahead and bring it and hand it into her. It's passed through it that way.
right.
There's more than.
How much evidence is there?
It's
It's
a lot.
Cannon Beach. Like, what's going on here?
Okay, well, getting back to the meeting.
But if I can.
Yeah, I want to hear you.
This sort of thing on.
Warded or had commended two of our police officers for within 3 days reviving two people with Narcan.
Oh,
So there are things that are happening around here and they're well taken care of and, but you know, that, all the evidence associated with both of those cases.
Ah.
We have domestic abuse, we have all kinds of stuff.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be flippant about that.
I know, but
It doesn't seem like much.
I know, I'm just like.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anything good of the order?
Thank staff for allowing us this meeting and
Sure.
listening to what we're trying to accomplish
Good.
and propose and
Yeah,
working together and just,
sounds good.
yeah.
Appreciate the questions.
Giving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Hey,
You know, it was one of those ones where there wasn't anything on here, so it did make sense once you guys sent the stuff to take advantage of the meeting to have this type of discussion without anything else. So yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Indigenous Peoples' Day.
Yeah. Yes.
Or you're
What's that?
either indigenous.